Hello, welcome. Today we're going to take a look at circular orbits of satellites or planets or any smaller body orbiting a larger body. And we are going to use universal gravitation, Newton's law of universal gravitation, and Newton's second law to derive some equations that are pretty useful. One for the orbital velocity of a satellite and one for the orbital period of a satellite. And the radius of orbit is also going to be involved in there. So here we have some larger object. Let's call it a planet. So there's mass of a planet. And we have some smaller object. Let's call it a satellite. So we have mass of the satellite. And then we have the radius of orbit. Keep in mind that the radius of orbit needs to go all the way to the center of the mass of the planet, not just from the surface to the satellite. So let's see, what do we know here? We know from Newton's second law that the net force acting is going to be equal to m times a. This is something going in a circle, so what kind of acceleration is it? It is centripetal acceleration, going straight in towards the center, right at the planet there. So let's put a little c here. And what force is pointing straight in towards the planet, causing this centripetal acceleration? This is the force of gravity, obviously. So on the left-hand side here, we just have Fg. So the force of gravity is equal to our mass times our centripetal acceleration. And we know that the centripetal acceleration is equal to the velocity squared divided by the radius. In this case, this is going to be the orbital velocity of the satellite, and this is going to be the radius of orbit. So drawing this in here, the satellite has some tangential velocity that it needs to have in order to maintain this circular orbit. And this mass right here is the mass of the satellite, the orbiting body. So the force of gravity, let's see. Newton's law of universal gravitation tells us the force of gravity is big G, the gravitation constant, times the two masses. So the mass of the planet, mass of the satellite, divided by the distance between them, which in this case is the orbital radius, squared. Set that equal to what we have on the right-hand side. And we get some lovely cancellations that happen. We have mass of satellite on both sides. The mass of the satellite doesn't matter. This is why an astronaut outside the International Space Station is orbiting at the same speed as the International Space Station, even though the International Space Station is way more massive. And we get one of our radii to cancel. So doing some simplification by taking the square root of both sides, we get a great equation. That big G times the mass of the planet divided by just the orbital radius will give us the orbital velocity. That's pretty handy. So it'll tell us how fast the satellite needs to be going in order to orbit at that radius. Now, to get something useful for the orbital period, we first have to remind ourselves that the orbital period is the amount of time it takes to go once around the orbit. So let's see here. We're dealing with a velocity, and the general equation for velocity is distance divided by time. So this orbital velocity is going to be the distance traveled once around. That would be the circumference of this circle, 2 pi r orbit. That's just the circumference of a circle, piece of cake. So that's the distance it goes, and the time that it takes is one orbital period, t0. So we're going to take that equation and we're going to plug it in for the orbital velocity over here. And we're going to do that on the next page. Okay, so here we have it. So we set the square root of g, mp over r naught, that was the orbital velocity, equal to the other equation for orbital velocity, 2 pi r over the period. And let's kind of do some cleaning up here. So we're going to square both sides to get rid of that square root. So big G, mass of the planet, over the orbital radius. And on this side, we're going to get a 4 pi squared r orbit squared over t orbit squared. Nobody likes fractions, so let's multiply both sides by r orbit and multiply both sides by the period of the orbit, and we get big G times the mass of the planet times the orbital period squared is equal to 4 pi squared orbital radius cubed. And any student of scientific history will tell you that this is a really important result. Right here we have Kepler's third law, that the orbital period squared is proportional to the orbital radius cubed. And Newton's laws directly confirmed Kepler's third law, which he came up with by observation. And it was a powerful, powerful confirmation of Newton's law of gravitation as well as his second law of motion. And so this one, rearranging it for whatever you want, we can use it to solve for the mass of the planet, we can use it to solve for the orbital period, we can use it to solve for the orbital radius. Interesting side note, like how do we know the mass of the sun? Well, we take the radius of Earth's orbit, we take the period of Earth's orbit, 365.25 days, and we can find the mass of the sun just based on that. Pretty powerful stuff. All right, so these two equations, you should practice deriving them because you will need to know them or be able to derive them. All right, so we got two important equations here. We've got the equation for orbital velocity, relating that to the mass of the planet and the orbital radius, and we've got Kepler's third law, in essence, relating the mass of the planet to the orbital period to the orbital radius. That is it for this time. See you next time.